revealed how a lonely COS life-changing encounter with a shivering nurse and a baby at a bus stop transformed his life. Mark Anderson stood shivering at the bus stop, staring through the barrage of icy winds that cut through downtown Chicago like a knife. He was a powerful CO, yet here he was just another man waiting in the cold, feeling the stark loneliness that gripped him more than this frigid winter evening ever could. The skyline glittered with lights, but inside that corner office, the view became tinted with the emptiness of his soul. He had wealth, cars worth more than most homes, and yet all he felt was a hollow ache in his chest. His eyes drifted to a nearby figure. A nurse, bundled in a worn coat, was cradling a shivering baby. She was a picture of resilience. The way she adjusted her scarf to shield the child from the merciless winds spoke of her urgent care and deep love. Mark could feel the stirrings of a memory, the warmth of community and togetherness that his parents had instilled in him back in his working-class neighborhood. Before corporate ambition took hold, there had been laughter around the dinner table and a bond forged through shared sacrifices. Jessie caught his gaze, her tired eyes meeting his for a brief, electric moment. He swallowed hard, memories of laughter and love floating like ghosts through his mind. The yearning for connection, for real humanity, surged in his chest. That child, swaddled in a thin blanket, stirred restlessly, and Mark couldn't hold back. He approached, gently offering his jacket. "Here, take this." The warmth of his gesture surprised them both. Their conversation flowed as they huddled together against the biting cold. Jessie spoke of dreams she had after earning her nursing degree, now dimmed by sleepless nights supporting her kids. Her voice was raw and real, echoing with all the weight she was carrying. "Every day is a fight," she said, eyes shimmering like that of the baby she held, a fight for a better tomorrow. Mark felt his heart tugging in ways he hadn't felt in far too long. Her struggle resonated with him, flipping a switch in his mind. This was just her burden, was it not also his? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Feeling compelled to act, Mark vowed to change things, to recognize the widening gap between the affluent and those struggling day by day. He immersed himself in initiatives advocating for social equity, a move that was met with skepticism, and eyes rolling within his executive circles. The harsh truths of societal inequity were daunting. Yet, his heart was set ablaze by a vision of unity, inspired by that shivering nurse and her tiny charge. But just as he tried to forge ahead, news cut through his determination. His estranged daughter was in a troubling situation. The weight of responsibility rained down on him like a heavy cloud. He stood between two worlds, the one filled with corporate success and the other filled with the people who mattered. Mark faced an agonizing question. Could he bridge these two divides and find redemption, or would he be ensnared forever in the ambitions that once consumed him? As the bus pulled in, he boarded, his heart racing, knowing paths of hope and healing were waiting ahead. The bus lurched forward, pulling Mark from his thoughts. As the engine roared to life, he felt the jolt of something awakening within him, a purpose he had long buried beneath layers of ambition and neglect. The city blurred outside the window, but his mind replayed Jessie's words, spinning like a kaleidoscope of responsibility and hope. Could he really transform his life? Could he really reach out to his daughter Sarah, who had been a mere shadow in his memory for years? The memories surged, not all of them pleasant. He could still hear the echoes of their last fight, the damning words spoken in anger. She wanted his time, his love, not just his money. And he had failed her woefully. He rubbed his temples and inhaled deeply, as if trying to clear his mind of the clutter that piled up. The bus veered left onto a familiar street, and the sight of the old neighborhood brought more memories flooding back. The small house where he grew up, the park where he played with friends, the close-knit community that had raised him. A community he'd abandoned, Arriving at his office, Mark was greeted with the same sterile view of corporate towers and glass facades, a stark contrast to the warmth he craved. Yet today, something felt different. The moment he stepped out of the elevator, he took the time to smile and greet the receptionists, to chat with the intern he had hardly noticed before. It was a small act, perhaps, but it felt significant. Like a crack in the armor he had built around himself. Throughout the day, he worked diligently, spinning strategies not just for profit but for outreach. Charity programs, internships for local youth, partnerships with hospitals. He scribbled ideas, his fingers flying across the keyboard, a rare excitement coursing through him. With every proposal he drafted, doubts crept in, but he pushed them aside. He wouldn't let fear dictate his choices anymore. After hours, he sat alone in the dimly lit conference room, staring at the stack of papers before him. Each initiative could change lives, his or theirs, but the thought of contacting Sarah loomed large. He hesitated. The phone call felt monumental and terrifying. What if she didn't want to hear from him? What if she saw him as just another failure? Mark's pulse quickened, uncertainty clawing at him. Finally, he gripped his phone. Each digit he pressed felt like stepping off a cliff. The dial tone filled the silence, echoing his heartbeat. And just as he feared he would hang up, it connected. Hey, came a voice familiar yet distant, sounding like the last fading memory of a dream. Sarah. Sarah, it's he started, but the lump in his throat silenced him. He fought to find the words that didn't come easily. It's Dad. I know it's been a while. The response was a moment of silence. He could almost hear her thoughts racing. Why are you calling now? She finally asked, each word edged with uncertainty. Mark closed his eyes, bracing himself. Because I want to make things right. As the weight of their uncharted future hung in the air, he realized this was where the real journey began. Just as the bus had taken him from the cold street to this moment, would they be able to navigate the frost that had come to define their relationship? While he searched for the right words, the undeniable truth loomed just beyond reach. Could healing come from a simple conversation? As he listened to the silence on the other end of the line, he sensed an opening, a possibility. But what would he do if she said no? Would he have the courage to try again, or would this chance slip through his fingers like so many before? Mark's heart drummed in his chest as Sarah's voice lingered in his mind. Because I want to make things right. Those words felt fragile yet heavy, encapsulating years of regret and sorrow. Silence stretched between them, taut and painful. He felt the tears gather, but he fought them back. This moment was too important. What does that even mean? Sarah's voice sliced through his thoughts. It was edged with skepticism, a reminder of the distance these years had created. You think you can just call me after everything? I know it sounds that way, Mark replied, choosing his words carefully. I have messed up, Sarah. But I mean every word. I've spent far too long just existing without you. Is that all you ever really wanted? To feel better about yourself? Her words hit home, sharper than he anticipated. No! He exclaimed, the urgency in his voice surprising even him. I want to be a part of your life. I didn't realize what I was losing until it was gone. I get it if you're angry. I deserve that. But I'm here now, and I want to change. A pause. He could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. This isn't going to just fix itself, you know. I know. But I want to try. The words poured out like a dam releasing its water, carrying with them the desperation of a father who yearned to be heard. Why should I believe you? It was her turn now, pushing back against the tidal wave of emotions flooding the call. Because I'm here, he said, his voice steadying. I'm trying. I've started working on myself, on things outside of just keeping my job or chasing after money. I had a talk with someone, a friend, Jessie. She made me realize that I need to own up to my responsibilities, not just run away from them. There was a silence that felt heavy enough to crush him, the kind of silence that could shift the tectonic plates of their relationship. But then he heard something faint, a sniff, and it broke his heart to think she might be crying. You don't know how long I've waited for you to say something like this. He could sense the vulnerability buried in her words, and it pushed the walls around his heart even lower. I'm ready to listen to you, Sarah. Really listen. I want to understand how I can be a better dad for you. I don't know, Dad. It's hard. I don't just want your promises. I want you to mean them. Then let us figure this out together. Can we meet? Just for coffee, or tea, I'll let you pick. Another pause before she finally responded. Okay. Just one coffee. Mark felt a wave wash over him, a breath of relief. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to bridge the chasm that divided them. But he also felt a creeping anxiety. One meeting wouldn't erase the past. Thank you, he managed, the relief choking him up. I'll take any chance you give me. They exchanged tentative details about when and where, and as he ended the call, a mix of hope and trepidation coursed through him. He had finally taken a step in the right direction, but that didn't change the fact that tomorrow was a cliff's edge. The thought of their meeting loomed like a storm cloud overhead, promising turbulence. What would he say? How could he explain the years lost? Would she be willing to acknowledge it all, or would they end up right back where they began, an ocean of distance still between them? Mark stared out the office window as night slipped in. Beyond the glass, the city glowed, but it felt dimmer somehow, like the light had yet to reach his heart. Would one coffee lead to healing, or was it just a drop in an endless sea of brokenness? He leaned back in his chair, allowing the uncertainty to settle. Tomorrow was more than just a conversation, it was a reckoning. Mark barely slept that night. The shadows of his past loomed large, wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. He tossed and turned, his mind racing through every missed opportunity, every regret that shaped the years that had slipped away. He gripped the edge of his memory like a lifeline, sifting through fragments of laughter, of warm hugs, of sharing secrets that once made him feel whole. Morning came with a dull thud, the anticipation prickling his skin as he dressed. Each piece of clothing felt heavy, a reminder of the weight he was trying to lift. A white button-up shirt. Dark jeans. Nothing too formal, nothing to suggest he was trying too hard. Just one step closer to the man he hoped to be. As he drove to the cafe, the streets blurred by in a rush. The city was alive, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside him. People went about their day, blissfully unaware of the transformations about to unfold in his own small world. The sunlight danced on the glass of high-rise buildings and reflected off car hoods, but for him, the day felt overcast. He arrived early, his heart thumping a nervous rhythm against his ribs. The cafe smelled of roasted coffee beans and fresh pastries, scents that were usually comforting but now felt suffocating. He took a seat near the window, watching the entrance. With each passing minute, his palms grew clammy, and he resisted the urge to fidget or check his phone again. Then, she walked in. Sarah. Mark's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight of her. She looked older, yet there was still that familiar spark in her eyes. But she was also guarded, almost like a fragile glass sculpture ready to shatter. Dressed simply, she carried the weight of their shared history on her shoulders. Mark stood to greet her, instinctively smoothing down his shirt. Hey, he said, forcing a smile. The word felt strange, like it didn't quite belong in the air between them. Hi, she replied, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. They both hesitated before finding a spot at a small, rustic table. As they settled down, the silence felt thick again. Mark could hear the low murmur of conversations around them, laughter intermingling with clinking cups. But in their little bubble, the world around them faded into a noisy blur. Thank you for coming, he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought about it longer than I care to admit, Sarah admitted, leaning her arms on the table, her fingers interlaced as if bracing herself. But I'm not sure how much to say or if I want to. Mark nodded, feeling the sharp pang of that statement. I get that it's a lot. And I know I've put you through so much. Her eyes softened slightly, but the iciness remained. You can't just say you want to be better and expect me to believe it. I don't expect anything, he said, his tone earnest. I just want to start somewhere. I'm ready to hear whatever you need to say. As he spoke, he caught a hint of vulnerability in Sarah's expression. It caressed the edges of her defenses, even if only slightly. I want you to mean it, she said, her voice trembling barely above the din of the cafe. I've spent so long wondering if you even thought of me, if you cared. Each word she spoke cut deep, and Mark felt the sting of the truth. I never stopped thinking about you, he admitted, his voice taut with sincerity. The regrets, they haunt me every day. He watched as she processed his words, her gaze drifting to the window. The hardest thing about waiting was knowing you were out there, pretending everything was okay, she finally said quietly. Like I didn't matter at all. Mark's heart sank. You meant everything to me, Sarah. I was just too lost to see it. For a moment their eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between them, fragile yet powerful. Then it shattered as Sarah looked away, the weight of her emotions settling heavily. As words hung unspoken in the air between them, Mark sensed the stubborn barricade around her heart. Yet there was a flicker of something else, a chance for connection, however small. They both knew. This first meeting was just the beginning. The question was, where would it lead them from here? Would it open the doors to forgiveness, or would their conversation spiral into the past they both wanted to forget? Mark knew he had to hold on to hope, but the ever-looming dread tightened its grip. Would he be strong enough to face whatever came next, or would everything crumble down again, washing their fragile progress away? His thoughts spiraled while he looked across the table. What would she say? Mark watched Sarah, the silence stretching uncomfortably between them. Her eyes darted back to him, telling stories of hurt that words couldn't quite capture. He noticed a tremor in her hand as she brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Do you ever really understand how it feels? She finally asked, her voice steadying but still raw. To realize that someone you thought would always be there is gone. That the safety net you believed in just vanished? Her question sank deep, igniting a storm of emotions inside him. Mark wanted to reach across the table, to reassure her, but fear rooted him to his seat. I can't pretend to know the pain you felt. I know I let you down. She raised her hand, a plea for silence. You can't just fix this by bringing up the past. It was never about moments lost, it was about trust. The air thickened again, each word hanging like a shadow between them. Mark swallowed hard, searching for the right thing to say, something to let her know he acknowledged everything. What if I'm not the same person I was? He asked, testing the waters. I've been through things, Sarah. Things that changed me. I'm trying to be someone who can. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Someone worth believing in again. A moment passed, filled with the unyielding hum of the cafe's life. Sarah looked at him skeptically, tilting her head slightly. It's easier said than done, Mark. Words are easy. Actions speak louder. Then let me show you, he said, his voice steady now. I want to make amends. Not just talk about it. Sarah searched his eyes, and for a fleeting second, Mark thought he saw something soften. But how do you plan to do that? She pressed. You can't just wave a magic wand and hope I'll trust you again. I need to see it. He could feel the strain of her hesitations. It was a familiar dance they both once knew well, now felt foreign but achingly beautiful to rediscover. I'll prove it. I'll be there. I want to be the person in your life who fights for you, the way you deserve, he said, fervency rising in his voice. Skepticism was still etched on her face. It's a long road, Mark. You can't just wear a different uniform and expect me to salute. I know, he replied, the intensity of her words striking a chord. But I'm here. Willing to walk that road, one step at a time. Mark felt the spine of hope stirring in him. It was fragile but potent, like the new buds daring to bloom after winter's frost. Sarah softened again, just a fraction, but it was enough for him to see. I need to think, she murmured, her expression conflicted. Take all the time you need, he urged. I'm not going anywhere. She nodded slowly, processing not only his words but the weight of their shared past. It was the hope of new beginnings tangled with fears of the old. As she sipped her coffee, Mark caught a glimpse of determination in her eyes. I want to make this work, she whispered, almost to herself. His heart raced. Really? You're willing to try? It's scary, she admitted, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her voice, breaking the barriers she'd built between them over the years. But I can't just shut you out forever. Maybe there's a chance. Mark's breath hitched, hope swelling in his chest. For the first time, he felt like they were standing on the edge of something new, something they could build together. Let us take it as slow as we need. Just one moment at a time. She smiled, a small crack in the armor, and Mark felt lighter. The journey would be long, but standing there, he felt ready. He finally saw a possibility for healing, a slow chapter rewriting their story. As he looked deep into her eyes, he felt a shift, an undeniable pull between them. But what he didn't expect was the message that pinged on his phone, shattering the moment, and reminding him how fragile everything still was. Mark's phone lit up on the table, the sound slicing through the moment like a knife. He glanced down, his heart sinking as he saw the name flashing on the screen. It was his mother. He hesitated, uncertainty flooding his thoughts. What could she want now? Everything okay? Sarah asked, her voice breaking the heaviness that filled the air. He nodded, but the truth was that a knot formed in his stomach. Taking a deep breath, he swiped the notification away, trying to focus on Sarah again. We were just starting to be honest with each other. Yeah, but whatever that is could be important, she said softly, her brow creasing with concern. Mark waved his hand dismissively. It can wait. But the truth was, he felt torn. His family had always been a source of stress, especially his mother, with her relentless worry and expectations. But this moment with Sarah felt monumental. Mark, she urged gently, you should check it. Just then, a bubble of anger and fear rose inside him. Why does it always feel like there's something else demanding my attention? Can't we just be here, in this moment? The plea came out sharper than he intended, and he winced internally. Sarah's expression shifted, her resolve unbroken. Maybe it's tough for you because you haven't fully faced what's pulling at you. You carry so much, Mark? The truth of her words stabbed at him. He felt exposed, caught between the past and the present, the weight of family obligations colliding with the possibility of a future with her. I know, he admitted, his voice softer. This isn't easy for me. I don't want to let the old stuff creep in. Then don't, she said, looking straight at him, eyes full of compassion. But you have to make a choice. Are you showing up for me, or are you still tethered to whatever drama is happening outside this cafe? Mark's heart pounded. He glanced at his phone again, tried to catch a breath, needing to make a decision. You're right. It shouldn't take precedence over this. We deserve this time together. The clarity was almost shocking. Sarah watched him, a flicker of hope igniting in those beautiful, expressive eyes. Just be honest with yourself. You don't have to carry everything alone. He felt the tension in his chest loosen just a little. Okay. He took another deep breath. Let us talk about us, about what happens next. Mark reached across the table, his hand hovering over hers. The leap felt monumental, and yet somehow liberating. They both moved slightly, their fingers touching. A jolt of warmth rushed through him, igniting something deep inside. I want to know more about your fears and your hopes, he said, eyes searching hers. I want to know how to make this work. Sarah smiled, the kind of smile that made the world around them fade. I want that too. It's just a matter of what we're both willing to do to make it happen. Just as he was about to respond, Mark's phone buzzed again. The urgency of it snapped him back, and he glanced at the screen. His heart dropped. It was a text from his sister. Mom fell, she's in the hospital. The air thickened again. Fear washed over him. He'd thought they were past those days. Mark? Sarah's voice broke through, laced with concern. What is it? A battle raged inside him. Should he ignore it? Dive into the hopeful moment they were building, or face the reality of family drama that could derail everything? Something has happened with my mom, he said finally, voice faltering. I don't know what to do. As Sarah reached for his hand, the weight of the world pressed down on him once more. Could he manage to juggle both worlds, the past and the potential future? Yet even amidst the turmoil, A thought spiraled in his mind. Could he really let go of the ties that bound him to old pain, while still trying to move forward and be with Sarah? The answer felt distant, but he knew one thing for certain: the next call he made could change everything again. Mark stared at his phone as if it were a live grenade. The message from his sister flashed like a warning sign, loud and insistent. Mom fell, she's in the hospital. Each word pulsed in his mind, sending ripples of dread through his body. He felt the warmth of Sarah's hand in his, a fragile connection in the growing storm of uncertainty. What do you mean? Is she okay? Sarah pressed, her voice searching for answers as much as he was. I don't know. I just got the text. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to buy time, to push away the realization crashing down around him. She's had health issues before, but I thought we were over the hard parts. Sarah squeezed his hand gently, grounding him. Mark, if you need to go, you should. This is serious. You can't ignore your family when something like this happens. He shook his head, feeling trapped between two worlds. But what about us? I don't want to run off, but I can't just pretend this isn't happening. Life doesn't stop for relationships, she said, her voice steady, though he could see the concern in her eyes. Sometimes you have to face the things you're running from. He nodded slowly, the weight of her words pressing down hard. There was truth in them, an undeniable pull toward responsibility, toward a family that had always needed him. Maybe I really am trying to escape, he admitted, the confession heavier than he anticipated. But I can't stand the thought of being pulled back into old patterns. It was so exhausting. You're not living in that moment again, Mark, Sarah reassured him, her gaze unwavering. You're a different person now. You can face it, and still make it back to us. Mark's heart raced. Her belief ignited a flicker of hope amidst the storm. Maybe it was time to confront what had always haunted him, the guilt and pain tied to his family, especially his mother. Okay, maybe you're right. He took a deep breath, feeling a mix of determination and fear. I'll call my sister. I need to know what's going on. With a trembling hand, he picked up the phone and dialed. Each ring felt like an eternity, the silence filled with tension. The moment his sister answered, her voice blent with worry and urgency sent him spiraling. Mark. She fell in the kitchen. The doctors said she's stable, but she might need surgery. They don't know yet. There was a tremor in her voice that made Mark's stomach twist. Okay, I'm on my way, he responded, surprises mixed with urgency fueling every word. I'll be there soon. Just keep me updated, all right? After hanging up, Mark swallowed hard. He looked at Sarah, the anguish in her eyes breaking his heart. I need to go. I can't just sit here while she's in pain. Of course, she said, shifting in her seat, and a hint of sadness crossed her face. I understand, but I'm here if you need me. He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Thank you for understanding. I just wish what? She asked, leaning in, a glimmer of hope still shining in her gaze. I wish I could merge the worlds, he admitted, voice shaky, thinking of how intertwined his family life had always been with his sense of self. How do I do that? How do I take care of my mom and still hold on to what we have? You take it one step at a time. Remember, you're not alone in this, Sarah said, her sincerity wrapping around him, an almost tangible support. A rattle of anxiety filled him as he realized the depth of his choices ahead. Could he truly balance it all? With a sigh, he pushed back from the table, his heart racing in 1,000 directions. Thank you for being my anchor, he whispered, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of hope in her eyes again. As he stood to leave, Sarah called after him, a soft plea. Promise you'll keep me in the loop? I want to be there for you. I promise. He stepped away, the weight of uncertainty pressing down again. Yet somewhere deep, he felt a shift. Footsteps echoing both toward and away from his past. The door swung open, a rush of cool air hitting his face. With each step, he wrestled with the tumult of emotions swirling inside him. Transition was just about moving forward. It demanded he confront his history. He embraced the battle ahead. Somehow, he was going to find a way. But just as he was about to step out into the world that awaited him, his phone buzzed with another message. His heart sank. What had happened now? Mark felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he glanced at his phone. The message notification flickered mockingly, and he hesitated for just a moment before opening it. A rush of cold dread swept over him as he read the new text from his sister. They think it might be serious. The fall did more damage than we initially thought. We need to talk. Panic hit like a tidal wave. His mind raced back to all those times he felt helpless, the chaos of emergencies echoing in his ears. He could picture his mom in a hospital bed, frail and vulnerable. It was a scene he had played in his mind ever since he was old enough to understand the fragility of life. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the cafe into the bustling street. People moved in every direction, bustling through their routines, yet Mark felt starkly alone. His heartbeat thudded in his chest, drowning out the noises around him. Each footfall seemed heavier than the last as he walked toward his car, his thoughts churning like a storm. What did it mean for him? Could he face the past, the arguments, the misunderstandings, the guilt that had haunted him? He fumbled with his keys, his mind a whirlpool of emotions that blurred his surroundings. A couple of blocks away, the hospital loomed like a dark monolith. It was a place filled with both hope and despair, a place he had sworn he'd leave behind. Just as he crossed the intersection, he caught a glimpse of Sarah's face in his mind. Her unwavering support wrapped around him like a lifeline. He imagined her words flowing through him again. You're not living in that moment again. He was halfway to the car when his phone buzzed again. Another message from his sister. He opened it, reading through the jagged lines. They think she might have a concussion. We have to make decisions on treatment. Can you get here soon? His chest tightened. Decisions. Why was it always decisions? He had run from them for too long, tried to carve a different path. But here he was, on the brink of that same crossroads he thought he had left behind. Decisions had their own weight. The thought of surgery, risks, the fear that he might lose her gripped him tighter. His mom was more than just family. She was the glue that had held so much together for years. He had to be there, but the reality of being faced with their history loomed dreadfully large. Driving through the city felt like a blur. Each stoplight a signal, stalling him for what felt like eternity. He could see his sister's face, a mix of fear and certainty, as they would face their mother's health together, surrounded by the sterile smell of the hospital. Pulling into the hospital parking lot, he felt a lump form in his throat. The structure towered above him, stark and imposing. The world around felt muted. He needed to gather himself before stepping inside. With a shaky breath, he gripped the steering wheel, realizing he had a choice. He could walk in with fear and resentment, or embrace the moment and the fight ahead. Could they heal as a family, learn from the past instead of letting it chain them down? That glimmer of hope was buried there, buried beneath layers of hurt. All right, he said out loud, determination rising in his chest. He pushed open the door, stepping into the hospital's fluorescent light. Each step felt heavy, but with each step, he felt lighter. As he maneuvered through the corridors, thoughts of Sarah and their conversations flooded his mind. He could feel her belief in him wrap around him like a shield. And somewhere in there, he found courage. But the moment he reached the nurse's station, his heart sank again. His sister was talking to someone behind the desk, and her expression told him everything. Grief, fear, despair, all rolled into one. What's going on? He called out, the urgency in his voice snapping her attention. Mark, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. You need to hear this. What was she about to say? The air grew thick with dread, and Mark braced himself for what was coming next. Was he ready for the truth? The tension hung heavy in the air, wrapping around Mark like a shroud. He stepped closer to the nurse's station, emotions swirling in his gut. He felt like he was about to enter a dark tunnel with no end in sight. His sister looked up at him, her face pale and drawn, the weight of impending news pressing down on her shoulders. Mark, it's Mom, she started, her voice trembling. They're saying she might not wake up. Dread settled over him like a thick fog. What do you mean? What does that even mean? She's just injured. His urgency spilled over, desperation clawing at his throat. Every instinct in him wanted to deny it, to fight against the reality sitting right in front of them. No, listen, she said, her hands shaking. They're running more tests, but the doctor said the fall caused swelling in her brain, and they aren't sure how much damage there is. They're asking if we wanted to consider extreme measures if she doesn't respond. Her words filtered into his brain but didn't register. What was extreme measures? His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage. This wasn't the future he envisioned. Extreme measures? He echoed, feeling almost detached from his own body. What does that even mean? It means surgery, Mark. They might have to go in. And the chasm of uncertainty in her voice felt like a physical blow to his chest. And we have to make a decision, soon. As the words tumbled over one another in his mind, he pictured his mother again, the woman who had kissed his forehead through tough times, who comforted him through every heartbreak. Okay. We just need to know more, he replied, though he wasn't sure if he was trying to convince her or himself. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in. They had always run from decisions like this, a family tattered by the weight of unspoken words and unresolved arguments. Mark! A voice called from down the hall. They both turned. A doctor in scrubs approached, his expression serious yet compassionate. Are you two the family of Mary Thompson? Yes. His sister stepped forward, a ball of determination, all fear left behind. Mark felt a sick sense of pride, even as knots twisted tighter in his belly. What's going on? We need to know exactly what we're facing here. The doctor took a breath, and Mark prepared himself for the weight of his words. Your mom is stable right now, but she's in critical condition. The fall has caused significant bleeding. We recommend immediate surgery to relieve the pressure in her brain and assess the damage. Time is crucial. Okay, this was the moment. No avoiding it. Is she going to be okay? Mark burst out, urgency climbing his throat again. The doctor glanced at them, the sadness in his eyes answering more than words could ever say. We won't know until after the surgery. It's risky. There are no guarantees. The uncertainty of that last statement struck him deep. Mark exchanged a glance with his sister. The weight of their mother's fate bore down on them. A thick silence filled the air, each second stretching painfully. Mark, we need to decide. His sister whispered fiercely. What do we do? His heart raced faster, the stakes higher than ever. They could lose her, or they could hold on to hope and fight. But would his history of running away from tough moments reassert itself now? Mark swallowed, his throat dry. We fight. We must. We can't let fear decide for us. But in the midst of that determination, another thought swept through him. What if this choice opened a floodgate of past hurts, the things they had buried between them? Are you sure? His sister asked, searching his face for clarity. Yeah. But can we face everything after? Together? In that moment, he realized they were not just deciding for their mother, they were deciding for themselves. As they stood on the precipice of choice, fear mingled with determination. And just then, the doctor looked at them with an expectant gaze, waiting for their response. What would they say? Would they take the leap into a future filled with hope, or would fear lock them into the darkness? They had tried so hard to escape. Mark's heart hammered loudly in his chest, and he felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down harder than ever. They were at the crossroads of life and death, buried in the shadows of their past and the possibilities of a future that felt utterly fragile. Mark, we don't have forever, his sister urged, her voice a quiet tremor that pushed him back into the present. The doctor's eyes followed theirs, waiting patiently but firmly, emphasizing the importance of their decision. Mark took a deep breath, grounding himself as memories of laughter, warmth, and love with his mother filled his mind. He could picture her bustling through the kitchen, singing under her breath, pouring her heart into every meal. The thought seemed to ignite something deep within him, pushing away the doubts that had plagued him. Yes, he said, his voice steady, cutting through the haze of fear. We fight. We believe in her, in us. His sister nodded slowly, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked, understanding passing between them, an acknowledgement of all they had endured, but also of their resilience. Let us do it, she finally replied, her voice a quiet strength echoing his resolve. The doctor's expression softened at their unity. All right. I'll prepare everything. We'll do our best. Mark watched as the doctor walked away, each step echoing a promise in their hearts, affirming they would not let fear dictate this moment. Together, they were preparing to leap back into the unknown, a plunge toward the hope they had often wished for but seldom embraced. As they stood side by side, each heartbeat that passed felt like a surge of unspoken words, the guilt, the regrets, everything unacknowledged now fused with an undeniable urgency. They had been distant, caught up in their separate lives, always running from the pain that had once bound them, but this moment was different. This was about healing not just for their mother, but for themselves too. Mark, can you promise me something? His sister broke the silence. No matter what happens, we face everything together. No hiding, no more running. The sincerity in her words sent a wave of warmth through him. He took her shaking hands and squeezed gently. I promise. Whatever happens next, we tackle it side by side. Just then, a nurse guided them to the waiting area, the stark walls a daunting backdrop to a vital chapter of their story. Mark's stomach twisted as he caught sight of a family sitting in the corner, eyes red and hearts broken, a reminder of the fragility of life. Time slipped away, stretching on the edges of uncertainty as Mark and his sister exchanged small words of comfort and shared memories of their mother. With every passing moment, they felt that familiar bond of love and forgiveness begin to weave back together, lifting some of the burdens of missed connections. Moments later, a familiar face brought them back from their reverie. It was Jessie, the nurse he had met at the bus stop, her expression filled with compassion and care. Hey, Mark! I heard about your mom. Just wanted to check up on you. He felt a rush of gratitude as he welcomed the comfort of her presence. Thank you? It's been difficult. Jessie nodded knowingly, her warmth wrapping around them like a familiar embrace. We're a community, Mark. We're here for you. That simple acknowledgement stirred something within him, reminding him that the struggle was manageable when shared with others. Jessie reached for his hand, squeezing lightly, offering silent support. Time passed and slow-motion conversations blurred into whispers of hope. But amidst that uncertainty, Mark felt an insistent pull towards Sarah. She had witnessed his journey and believed in him when others wouldn't. He sent her a quick text, letting her know what was happening. Seconds later his phone buzzed. I'll be there as soon as I can. You're not alone. The words washed over him, renewing that spark of resilience. As Mark looked at his sister, he saw the same hope mirrored in her eyes. They could face anything together. Finally, the doctor appeared again, bringing with him the air of relentless hope. The surgery went well, he announced, the tension breaking like a wave crashing against the shore. Your mother responded positively, and we'll monitor her closely. As the relief burst within him like the sun, tears welled in Mark's eyes. In that instant, everything changed. This was a second chance not just for his mother, but for their family to heal. United, they breathed a collective sigh of relief to feel free amidst the weight of their past. Thank you, Mark said, voice shaking with emotion as he sank onto the chair beside his sister, who embraced him tightly. We can start fresh. We can fix this. Jessie lingered a bit longer, offering encouragement, loving kindness, and a gentle reminder that life went on, even through chaotic twists. The walls around them, once foreboding, now felt warm and inviting. As they settled into the waiting area, sharing stories and warm laughter again, a sense of newfound power bloomed between them. They had weathered a fierce storm together, and in this moment, every step they took from that point on would lead them closer to rebuilding their family. Outside the hospital, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink like a promise of tomorrow. This was their moment, the beginning of a new chapter filled with understanding, connection, and the promise of healing. In that embrace, Mark truly felt he was home. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.